Hey there, it's Katie from the Health, Wellness, and Chocolate podcast, and I wanted to talk to you today about taking a life inventory. I really love this thought concept, and so I wanted to share it with you to give you some tools that you can start to apply to your life, and it will be reflected in your weight loss journey. So really, what happens when you have a problem with your weight is, and studies can back me up on this, they say that when someone struggles with their weight, they spend a lot of time on autopilot, kind of just reacting. Okay, so overweight people tend to be reactors. We'll react to situations, we'll react to circumstances, we'll react to other people's personalities. Like, we tend to be reactors in the sense that we feel like either we're responsible for other people's behaviors and reactions and emotions, or we're reacting to them, and, you know, we'll tend to be like upset by them or then like want to eat. Okay. So another way too is that we'll automate a lot of our life. And I've talked about this before, on how your brain is so powerful that it will automate as much as possible because it uses so much energy and so much calories. And actually, I wanted to read to you this information. This is from Change Your Brain, Change Your Body by Dr. Amin. I believe that's his name. Yeah, Amin. Okay, and so this is what he says. He goes, your brain is the most complicated, amazing, special organ in the universe. Your brain only weighs about 3 pounds, but it is more powerful than the most sophisticated supercomputer. Even though it represents only about 2% of your body's weight, your brain uses about 25% of the calories you consume, 25% of the total blood flow in your body, and 20% of the oxygen you breathe. The calories, blood flow, and oxygen feed the cells inside your brain. And so, you know, I've talked about this before, but like your brain, because it uses so much energy and because it uses so many calories and it takes a lot of effort, your brain is so brilliant, it will automate as much as possible. And that's where, you know, the term habits come from, right? And so your brain will create a habit out of things, when, you know, and when you do them often enough, it's automaticity, right? Your brain will automatically just do things. And so when you've started out with maybe a desire, maybe there's an unpleasant emotion or an unpleasant feeling that you have, your brain has learned, rather than like get to the root of the emotional problem and try to figure it out and brainstorm, it automatically will it has automatically created a neural pathway from years of habit of just saying, oh, I know how to solve this problem for you. When you feel uncomfortable, I'm going to tell you you're hungry. And then you're going to go eat something and it will distract you and you'll get a little bit of a hit of dopamine and that's going to make you feel better. I know how to solve this problem for you. You don't even need to pay attention. So anything that comes up that's unpleasant or uncomfortable, you're just going to automatically feel hungry and then go get something to eat. And you don't notice you do it because you like, why? And this has happened to me. Like, this is actually one of the root causes of how I discovered how to lose 60 pounds was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea my brain was doing this. I truly thought I was hungry. And I would pull up my driveway and my brain, like, I don't know why. I guess it was because of having kids for so long. Like, anytime we were out and we got home, they would always be hungry. But anytime we would drive up my driveway, regardless of what time of day it was, and regardless of how less time ago I had eaten, like how recently I had eaten, I would be like, my brain would be like, okay, it's time to eat. And I would just believe it and be like, okay, I guess it's time to eat. And like, just go in and grab something from the fridge. It was automatic. I didn't even know I was really doing it. It was just like what we did. And why would I doubt my brain? It's telling me I'm hungry. I should go eat something. And it wasn't until I learned this that I was like, oh my goodness, let me challenge that. I'm not going to go eat. And I would actually start talking back to my brain like, no, we just pulled up the driveway, brain. We're not really hungry. It's just, this is what we do. And I had to create a new neural pathway. And now when I pull up the driveway, I kind of chuckle because I'm like, oh, remember, brain, when you used to tell me I was hungry? And I know I'm not now. And I had that tool now. But, you know, if you can kind of capture that thought every time your brain tries to tell you like, oh, you're hungry right now, when you're not hungry, and actually challenge it, think of all the calories that you're not consuming. And it's not, and you don't feel deprived because you actually really aren't biologically hungry. Your brain was just on this autopilot, trying to be efficient, trying to keep you alive, keep you happy, keep you safe, right? Because that's its core function. And, once you're aware that that's what it does, you can start challenging it, and you can choose an alternate besides just turning to food, because now you know. And then once you do that, it's like, there's like all these calories that you're not consuming anymore. And it's not because of deprivation and you're not starving yourself. It's just like, oh, wait, I'm just aware now of what my brain is doing. And I don't have to, I don't have to answer every thought with an action, especially if that thought isn't serving me or that thought really isn't even true. Okay. And so now that you know that, you can start challenging your own brain. So your brain, again, is going to purposely automate as much as possible to be efficient. And I just read to you the stats on, how much energy your brain uses. So it makes sense that it would try to automate. And it's not a bad thing. It's a brilliant thing, right? Can you imagine how exhausted we'd be if we had to constantly think like, okay, move your left leg, move your right leg, move your left leg. Now go down the stairs. Now go, like, you don't have to think about it. Like, your brain is wonderful. And if you had to think about every little thing you did, it'd be exhausting. So your brain will automate. Okay. So food is a very accessible way to take care of yourself. And it's very often a very early way for us to find comfort. So chances are, if you, your brain probably set up the automaticity of eating to feel better, probably when you were young, because food was very accessible and easy to use to help comfort, okay, to feel better. But as we get older, you could see now as an adult, the fruit of that turning to food for comfort and to feel better is really not serving us anymore, okay? It's hurting our health. It's hurting our well-being. It's hurting our self-confidence. It might be hurting our blood sugar. It might be hurting our heart. It might be hurting, it's hurting your relationship with yourself if you go to bed every night being mad at yourself for maybe not making the best food choices that you could be making. So food really, while it served us in the past and was a fantastic way for us to cope because we didn't know better, it's really not appropriate anymore. And I want you to understand that it does hurt us, especially if there's morbid obesity, if your joints are hurting you, if you do have high blood pressure, if you do have chronic inflammation, if you do have a lot of like high cholesterol, like if you do have all these other issues and they stem from having a problem with your weight, then food really isn't serving you anymore. It isn't your friend. It isn't even necessary. Okay, so I want to give you this tool because I think it's important for you to learn it. Food is not your friend. It doesn't care about your well-being. It doesn't love you back. It's not like it's not the keeper of your soul. It's just food. It's inanimate. It doesn't care. You could eat it or not. It doesn't care. It's not going to give you a Christmas present. It's really nothing. Okay. And so what you really need to do the work is really finding pleasure and finding the pleasure and the comfort and the security and the safety that you find in food. You need to find it in other things. Okay. It needs to be found either in your relationships, like to yourself, to God, to your fellow human beings, to the people in your life that you love, right? You need to find it in external pleasures, either finding your purpose, hitting your goals, realizing your potential. Like, that's where there is a lack. That's really where you're hungry. And your brain has automated it to say, look, you just go eat something, because that has worked for you in the past. That's what worked when you were little and you needed comfort. So that's what we're just going to keep doing. Or when you were a teenager and it was stressful, it was so much easier to go grab a pizza, right? But now it's not serving you anymore. But your brain doesn't know that, and it just does what works. But your job now is to kind of capture those thoughts and capture that when there's no way you could possibly be biologically hungry, but your brain is telling you, like, the food is just calling you. You need to start challenging that and start turning towards things to give you pleasure and comfort that are not food. And that's usually found in your relationships, in hitting goals and finding your potential, finding needs that you have, and figuring all those things out. Okay. So really your job at this point in your life is to start taking stock of your life and notice things that have become automatic, and then allow yourself time to kind of make those tiny changes in your life, so that food really is not the important comforter, the best friend, the pleasure, like the only pleasure that you have in life, right? Like, I can't give up this food because it's the only joy I have, right? It's like that, it has to stop, and you need to start building a life that is just as awesome, that gives you those great feelings that food does, without needing the food. All right. And you do have the agency and the power to do that, regardless of what circumstances you have. You just need to do the thought work and figure out what that is. You only have so much emotional energy every day. And when it's used up or running low, again, your brain is going to tell you, it's going to switch on that hunger cue and go tell you to eat, right? And so one of your jobs too is going to be to identify, so what is draining you? What is draining you emotionally and taking up all your emotional energy? And then see what you can do to tweak it, so you're not turning to food to fill up your emotional tank, right, when it starts to run empty. It's the same as turning to it when you have this uncomfortable feeling as well. So what I want, for the purpose of this podcast, is for you to grab a pen and paper and listen for now. But maybe if you want to take notes, fine. But I don't know if you're, busy driving or whatever. But consider this. But then maybe when you go home, write it down. Okay. So I want you to take time and write your answers down so that you notice them. So don't just think about them, because thoughts really kind of pass us by like a cloud and then they're gone. So I really encourage you, if this truly does speak to you and you really want help with your weight loss, and you don't want to diet and really feel deprived and have it be painful, this is really an excellent tool for you to use. So I want you to notice these answers and write them down, because it will help you acknowledge them. And it's so hard to change things that you don't acknowledge. Again, your brain isn't going to do a lot of extra work. It doesn't have to, because of all the energy it takes up. So it's really like you have to be intentional in this thought work and making the changes you want to make. It is not going to be automatic. It's almost like if you're consider your brain telling you to go eat whenever it has an uncomfortable feeling as like a 4-lane superhighway. Okay, that is like the path in your brain. It is wide open and it's automatic and it's straight, and you don't even have to think about it. Now consider, like, if you wanted to do something new and build a new habit in your brain. Consider you're in like the Amazon jungle and you have a machete and you need to create a new path. It's going to take a long time. You have to be very intentional. It might be exhausting. You're going to be tired by trying to knock down all these weeds. And at first, the path might not even be recognizable. You have to really be intentional and really go do it over and over and over again. Eventually, it might turn into a 4-lane superhighway. But for now, it's just taking your time. It's taking effort, it's taking attention, it's taking physical work. That's the same as building a new neural pathway in your brain. It's like, so consider you're walking through the Amazon with your machete, building this new neural pathway in your brain of not responding to anything unpleasant or uncomfortable with a desire to eat, but instead creating these new habits and these new boundaries. Are there times throughout your day when you know you need to speak up, set boundaries, but you don't? How do you feel after? Do you spend the next several hours reviewing your conversation and wishing you had handled it better? Are there situations in your life that you really don't have any control over, like other people's behavior? Do you spend a lot of time thinking of shoulds for them? For example, they shouldn't dress like that. They shouldn't behave like that. They shouldn't talk like that. Why did they say that, right? You think of other people and how they should behave. But really, you can't control them. And you have to be able to detach from their behavior because that will drain you emotionally, okay? So think of situations in your life that you really don't control, but you spend a lot of time ruminating over. See what they are and then really kind of tell yourself, like, I can't be responsible for this anymore. This is not my problem. That will save you a ton of emotional energy. And honestly, it's very freeing to be able to do that. I think the saying is like, not my monkeys, not my circus, but seriously, apply that to your life, right? How are your relationships? Okay, here's another area. Are you over responsible? Like I just said, are you over responsible for others in your life? That is above a normal parent-child relationship. Like, do you obsess about others and what they do, where they go, what they have? Like, do you spend a lot of time comparing yourself up against them? And then you always feel like you come up short. I think social media exacerbates this in people. I think you compare yourself to others. Like, you compare the worst part about you to everybody else's highlight reel that they are willing to share on Facebook or social media. And then you always feel like you come up short. And going on social media can really exacerbate that. So if you find when you log off of social media, do you feel more drained and like regret that fact that you even went on? Because if that's true, then like maybe start weaning yourself off of it. Start creating a life that doesn't need social media so much. That you can love without really feeling like it has to be compared to other people, right? Because if you're so busy in your own lane doing your thing and living an awesome life, you don't really care like if other people have a better car than you or if they're going on more vacations than you, right? Like, your life is so full and so wonderful. It's not really, you don't need to think about theirs and feel like you're coming up short. Okay. Another thing is, like, do you hold grudges, unforgiveness, anger, or resentment at situations, and you think you're powerless to change them or control them? So this is huge. So I want you to spend some time with this one. Are you holding a grudge against someone or any kind of unforgiveness or anger or resentment, like either at a situation or at people? And then really do your best to let it go, because that is so draining. And again, you can't control other people's behavior. And forgiving them doesn't mean you think what they did was okay, but it gives you the freedom to be able to make peace and move on. And we're talking about, trying to conserve our emotional energy. Forgiveness is huge, especially with emotional energy. Because if your emotional energy isn't focused on who wronged you and who made you angry and who did who made you feel whatever, you have emotional energy left to take care of yourself, right? Another area, do you struggle with anxiety and overwhelm? And what is the root of that? Is it even real or is it perceived? Like, do you spend a lot of time letting your mind run wild with worst case scenarios based in fear? And that will sap your emotional energy. Most of what we worry about does not even come true. Okay. And I had heard this recently, and I think it's so true. Like, most of our fears of like what we situations or scenarios that we run in our head, they always lack the grace of God. Like, have you ever gone through like a really hard time and you're like, gosh, I don't know how I got through that, right? It was like God's grace, right? And so many things that we fear and that we worry about that don't even come true anyway, but they also lack, God's grace in them too. So of course they feel fearful, right? So do you have, like, maybe you actually have a very hard situation, right? Maybe life really is pressing you in on all sides and you don't feel like you have a way out and you don't feel like you have any margin in your life. I've been there. I know I have had life seasons like that, okay? But there's always, always, always something that you can do to affect it, to make it bearable, to be able to tweak it and breathe, even in those hard situations, even in the short term. Like, there's some tweaks you can make to change so that your life can become bearable. And then you can start setting longer term goals. Like, you could see a way out if you just have a little bit of hope in them. Okay. So perhaps like you feel like finances are closing you in on all sides, and you can't miss a day of work. You can't get sick. You can't even miss an hour. Your budget is like, there's no wiggle room. There's no room for anything. No mistakes can be made, right? So maybe get a budget, get on a budget, and it'll allow you some freedom so you can see Where are you spending a lot of your money? Where are the holes? What can you plug? What can you let go of to give you a little bit of margin in your life? And so you're not always stressing about finances, okay? There are tools out there that are totally free that will help you get on a budget. I love Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. Is so helpful for getting on a budget and for learning about finances and plugging the holes and seeing what really is necessary and what's not necessary. That's always so helpful. Here's another area. Do you seek approval from others at the risk of your own health? Okay. Do you fear criticism or rejection? Because that's normal to not want to feel that. We have that in us, to not want to be the outcast, to be the loner, to be rejected. No one wants that, right? We always want to feel valued and heard and accepted. But if you are compromising your own values, if you're compromising your own health to please and seek approval from everybody else, then you really need to evaluate the price you're paying for a life of approval seeking. If it's not worth it. So seriously, take some time, do some thought downloads on that. Look for areas in your life where you are seeking approval from others, and what does that look like? And are you putting your own health at risk? Are you losing sleep just to make somebody else happy? Are you really neglecting yourself just to get approval from other people? Okay. Taking stock in all these areas will help bring awareness to your feelings, and you'll start to discover patterns between your emotions and your triggers and then your desire to eat. And like I said, once you notice these things, you're no longer on autopilot. You can start addressing them and really actually start kind of challenging your brain, which is kind of fun. So your job right now is to create strategies that don't involve food to start feeling better. So do all the thought work first, even if it takes you all week to do it. Come up with all that thought work and then pick the areas where you feel like you need to create some new strategies that don't involve food to help you feel better. When you address the root of the problem, it is the best way to reduce your hunger and your food cravings. So addressing these things will help you on your weight loss journey. I do teach you how to do all this inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. And of course, these strategies are unique to you and your own needs, right? I don't tell you okay, well, you need to go to bed at 9 and you need to get up at 5 and then you need to go do this and then, right? That's not what we do. We do thought work. I give you the tools. I ask you the questions, and then your job is to write down the answers and to really think and then start to come up with strategies. And I can help you with the strategies, but it's your job to come up with strategies, because these are skills that you're learning so that when I'm not here anymore, you have the tools that you need to create the life you love, where food is not important or as important as it used to be. Instead, your life is awesome and you're able to live a life you love that's not where food is the center and it's so important. And so throughout the whole Health and Wellness Blueprint, the whole blueprint is me giving you tools to create a life you love and strategies so that you learn how to apply them into your own life, and then the weight comes off without deprivation and drama, and you come out on the other side with this life that you love, one that's filled with purpose and meaning and healthy relationships. And food can have an appropriate place in your life. You're still allowed to enjoy it, but it's not the only pleasure you get, right? Your life is full of pleasure, but it's natural pleasures. It's relationships that are qualities, hobbies or dreams that you forgot you had that you're finally realizing and being able to fulfill, and get needs that you've neglected that you can now get met because you know what they are, right? That's what we do inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint. So I offer it for only $1 to get you started. We have some testimonies that are starting to roll in from people that have started to listen to the podcasts and are enjoying it. And they're saying, oh my goodness, I had no idea that just the $1 was so valuable. This is awesome. And now they're joining up for the full entire blueprint. Because we also meet once a week on Monday mornings, and I answer any questions you have, and I always teach a little class as well to give you some more tools as I learn them also. So I'd love to have you join me. I only make it $1 so you could see if you like it or not. But I think if you're listening to the podcast and you're finding what I am teaching helpful, then I encourage you, the next step would be to join the Health and Wellness Blueprint for only $1. You have nothing to lose, because if after 7 days you totally hate it, which I doubt you would, but if you did, it just goes away. It's not you have to cancel anything. Your access just ends and that's it. So definitely consider it. I would love to see you in there. And I hope you found this helpful, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye now. Take care.